questions, right? And I'll
Yeah,
probably be
yeah,
answering. Okay, sounds good.
yeah. So welcome everyone. Welcome Dev. We are live on the Swarex YouTube channel.
Yep.
So
Thank
today
you.
we
Thank
have
you for having me here.
today we have Dev Bishnoi with us, who is a software engineer 3 at Google. Sir has experience of above 5 years at Google, and sir has also worked previously at Samsung. And Dev has been graduated from NIT Kurukshetra, if I am right. Yeah. So today, and sir has solved over 1,000 plus problems over the coding platforms. That's a huge achievement because I myself and a lot of students which we come जो मेरे पास आते हैं उन सबकी यही क्वेरी होती है कि कंसिस्टेंट कैसे रहें कि आज हमने 2 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर लिए आज हमने 5 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर लिए तो कल मतलब 2 दिन तो करेंगे बट ऐसे कंसिस्टेंसी नहीं बन पाती कि रोज करें तो वो भी जानेंगे आपसे
Okay.
तो स्टार्ट करते हैं।
Okay.
सबसे पहले तो मैं ये पूछूंगा यार हाउस लाइफ गोइंग ऑन एट गूगल
Uh, I think first of all, thanks for having me here on your channel, and I'm really happy that you have such a good community, and we are able to share our learnings, knowledge, experiences with them. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think I'll give you a little bit of introduction for myself.
Sure.
So I started in industry around 6 year back with the degree of computer science from NIT Kurukshetra, and I initially joined Samsung. There I worked for around 11 months, and then I got a placement offer from another company in Goldman Sachs. And then I was also in the transition period, or I would say notice period. And during that time, one of the Google recruiter reached out to me, saying that okay, we your profile seems to be interesting. You have done good work in your in your past. So why not try Google? Why not give interviews in Google, and then let's see where it goes. So I was you know in my notice period, so I thought maybe why not try Google as well. So then I gave few interviews for Google as well. uh, so the first interview was online. So it's kind of virtual interview where we'll have two questions to solve, and then you'll solve through some online platform. So they have their internal platform. So the Google does have internal platform where you will be coding, right? And I
Okay.
cleared that. uh, and then after, I think 15 or 20 days, recruiter reached out to me again. Yeah, sorry. So they reached out to me again and saying that okay, we are uh, going forward with your on sites. So nowadays, all the on sites are online, right? All interviews are virtual nowadays. But at that
Okay.
time, companies used to ask the employees to come on site, on office, and then have interviews. So I went to office for like a day. It was scheduled 15 days after my first interview. I gave, I think, 5 interviews that day. Four was around coding, and some experience and projects. Then one was googliness and leadership. So that's like the behavioral, uh, kind of, or the role fit kind of interview. And then yeah, after I think a month, I got the offer and I joined immediately after getting the offer, because I had already served the notice period during that time.
Yeah.
So initially
Yeah.
I joined a, a team which was working on some machine learning workloads. So when you take a picture in the camera, so it goes through multiple camera modules. Each time that image will be transformed into something else, and then eventually it will come up with some hash or some output, which will say, okay, your face is authenticated or not. So I was basically working on this face authentication pipeline. For a year I worked there, then I switched to embedded. So I switched to low level programming where I'm writing C code, writing softwares to boot SOCs. Now the people or the folks who doesn't know SOC is a system on chip, which is the every mobile phone will have. So yeah, I pretty much worked there for around 4 years, and then recently I switched back to another team, which is Pixel Watch software team. And now we
Yeah.
are the product front team, which decides what features should go in for Pixel Watch, and how do we deliver them end to end, from, let's say, right from the idea the to the finish, right? So that has been my experience so far, and it was amazing because you know what I have seen personally is that in Google, people are really humble. They always try to learn new things. There will be times, or there will be most of the times in my case, I am surrounded by people who are smarter than me, or at least I assume that way. So that always when they speak something, I kind of learn something from them, right? So I
Yeah.
think that should always be the mindset uh, for anyone, and especially in Google, everybody has that mindset that, okay, team around me are more capable, more knowledgeable than me, and I should learn from them. And let's say if I'm asking for some help, it always happen that the people or your seniors or your colleagues who are in the team will go beyond their day to day routine and help you achieve your goals. So this is something what I have seen in Google especially. I did not see in other companies where, like in my past company, people used to pull the legs, try to um, it wasn't that great experience where everybody pushing other one to grow in career, right? So that
Yeah.
has been experience overall for me. I think you asked me a question of consistency, how we make sure we are consistent with the coding and practices. So uh, what in my case, what I did was I devised a plan of a year. Let's say I sat down a day and then thought, okay, these are the companies I want to get into. So don't always have one company in your dream. Always have multiple buckets, because when you target a single company, what happens is that if that company rejects you, you are into in kind of in depression, because you only targeted for that company, you don't have a backup option now. So
Yeah.
it's always good to have multiple companies. So what I did was I tried to gauge my experience or my interest, that let's say I want to work on these technologies. And then I figured out, okay, what all companies are working on such products or such technologies, right? And then I made a list, and then I uh, mm, you know put a year of timeline for me, that in a year I will be working on improving my skills, what those companies require. And then at the end of the year, or even in between, I will be applying to these companies, and then So it's not like after a year every company will, because you set a timeline of a year. It's not like after a year all the companies will come to you and ask you that, hey, give us interviews, right? That doesn't
Yeah.
happen. So it's opportunity based, right? Most of the times you will get opportunity right away. Sometimes you have to wait for a year or two. So in that case I was prepared that even if, let's say, I am devising a plan of a year, but let's say after a 6 month, if some company has some opening which is in my list, I'll apply for that company and try to get rejected, right? In that case what happens is that I'll at least know what they are asking. I'll at least know what is the back, interview experience for me, and where I, lie in their, level of expertise, right? So a year of, timeline for me. I, devised what technologies I, need to learn. So I wasn't, specifically after. So in during my college, I was interested in doing, competitive programming, DS and all. Uh, and that was because of my interest and not because of, let's say certain companies are asking for, the DS and all. So always have a passion, and I had the passion to work on some problem statements. So I always, you know uh, you know get a trigger where, let's say, I submit a problem and then all the test cases are passing, and then my solution is, the best optimized one, right? And that's a kind of a goosebump for me. So I always strived for that, and worked consistently to get more and more of, those instances. Now most of the times you don't have to do that. Let's say you don't like that much of the DSA, let's say you are not passionate about that. So what I would recommend is that all these data structures and algorithms are uh, simple enough, I think. All these, you what you do is you cover the basics. You start from, let's say, C pointers, linked list, stack, all these data structure, and then you cover some basic, algorithms, and then try to always improve yourself in terms of, thinking. Let's say tomorrow I get a, new problem out of the world. How do I solve that problem? What tools I have? You don't have to, solve 1000 problems to be in Google. At least that has been my experience. But it's good to have, if, let's say, if you are interested in doing or solving 1000 problems or more than, so on, doing coding practices on multiple platforms, that's good. If you don't want to do that, then have, so what I personally recommend is that have a good initial, solid background, solid knowledge, or what do you say, solid abilities to solve the problems, right? Have that basics in your mindset. Have that, let's say tomorrow there is a problem around. uh, so first of all, if there is a problem that you encountered first time, what you have to do is to figure out, okay, what tools I have in my in my pocket, right? Let's say one is binary search, one is greedy algorithms, then there are different concepts, right? I have all those things. Now how do I make sure that any of this apply on, this problem statement? And if it doesn't apply, you try to solve it in a, different way. Try to come up with a different, algorithm. It is a brute force, that's fine. Most of the times in Google we are looking not for the outcome, but rather how a candidate, pursued that problem statement. Whether they directly, came out of box with the solution, or whether they had that ramp up time, like you come up with a brute force solution, then you solve a bit ahead, then you solve a bit ahead. In Why we look that way? Because in real life, when you are working on a project, it's new, nobody else working on that, right? uh, for example, if you're solving a problem, there is a solution online, you can reach out, learn from that solution, you can copy that and then paste and then understand, right? But in real life, when you're working on a product or problem statement, that's not out there, nobody's working on such problem statement, right? Google is the one kind of a company who always is first in some products, right? They are the first one to discover such technologies, and at that time nobody's there working on, so you can't refer to some another documentations, you can't refer to some others code. And that's the reason why there is so much ambiguities, there is so much black box. What you have to do is to try all the pieces that you have and come up with such a solution. Now in this case there is no such pattern, maybe there is nothing in the background, right? There is no background to you, but you still try to come up with the solution. So that is what uh, thinking process should be, that regardless of if I do coding or not, if I have given with a problem statement, I should be able to come up with a solution. Now it's not like you always come up with the best solution, no. There is you know there is a ramp up time, you always come up with a brute force solution first. You solve the some basic initial as cases, basic cases first, and that is also happens in the real life. You don't come up with the foolproof plan of the product, you always come up with some basic parts of the problem, that okay, I can solve this piece of the problem uh, using this technology, I can solve this, I can solve this, and now the entire solution becomes one, right? But this is not a final. Now you try to improve it iteratively. Let's say it takes a year to become what the product that you imagine, right? And that's the same thought process while hiring a new engineer. So what I would recommend is that make a plan. Have, let's say, I don't say okay, you work for 5-6 hours a day. Have a plan of, let's say, 1 year, 2 year down the line. Let's say if there is a 2 year down the line you want to prepare, then 1 hour a day on a problem statement. It doesn't have to be competitive coding problem statement, it could be a real life project that you are working on. And I think that's the best way to learn things, to get into the real life solutions. Solving the problems on a platform is not you know uh, it doesn't give you the real life bits and
Mm.
pieces, right? When you're really working on a problem statement, let's say I'm solving a small or working on a small solution for some device or some software problem, that is where I'm going to learn, because that's where it's a real problem statement. I learn on the way, on the fly, while solving or while developing a product, and that's the best way to learn. You can start with a project and then work on it piece by piece, and try to use what you've learned so far into that product project, right? That is one way. Now if let's say you are making a pipeline of 6 months, let's say, it depends on the people to people, right? If let's say I am in my third year, I have a year to get into companies, so I make a plan of a year, and every day I spend 2 hours trying to learn something new. It doesn't have to be the competitive coding, or it doesn't have to be DSA specifically. It can be any other programming language you are learning, maybe any another project that you're working on. Keep that consistency across the time, and when you are working on a real product or a real project, I am sure you are going to learn all these data structures on the way, because that's where you are going to implement those in the real life situation, right? So keep that in mind. Have some list of companies and also have some plan that okay, what these companies are asking for and how can
mm,
I prepare for those technologies. And then that way, after a 6 month, let's say you've devised a plan of a year, after a 6 month you'll feel really comfortable that okay, now I have some grip of problem statements out. I can appear for the interviews. Then you start appearing. Initially maybe you get rejected so many times, doesn't get disheartened. It's a learning. Initial failures are not failures, rather it's a stairs for you to rise up and up, right? So keep that in mind, and then have a plan. Yeah.
so can we know about your कॉलेज जर्नी कि आपने कैसे डेवलपमेंट और डीएसए को
Hmm.
साइड बाय साइड चलाया एंड मतलब
Okay.
which projects you did which help you
Hmm.
to solve real life problems. Can you explain your college journey if possible?
Sure, sure. So I think in first year I did not even know how to type or how to use keyboard. My 11th and 12th went into quota preparing for IIT JE and all. So and then up until 10th I was for 2 years I worked in a I studied in a private school. But then those were too much focused or oriented towards increasing your percentage in the 10th or 11th or 12th. And for that reason they did not have these subjects where you have an extra development of your brain, right, where you are learning C programming, where you are learning computer. That those subjects were not there specifically because those were not in the in the marks list or the subjects or the exams list. So for that reason we did not learn that, rather we just learned the physics, chemistry, mathematics, and then Hindi and English. So these were primary subjects for me. Computers was somewhere in the back and nobody learned that. So when I was in my first year I did not know how to even type at the rate. So there is this key 2 and then there is at the rate on the top of that, right? So you have to press shift to print at the rate. But I was pressing the 2 and I'm not sure okay how to press another key on the same the physical key, right? So yeah, that was my situation. And hopefully any one of you are watching, you are much better than me. If you look at your first year and compare with me, so you are, I think, better than what I was at that time. And then in the second year, I think somewhere in mid I got my laptop. I initially started working on some web development. I don't know, for some reason, because it looked nice, where I'm just setting some divs here and there, and then it reflects on the other HTML piece, right? I am able to create buttons, I'm able to create a site or something. So that gave me some goosebump, and then I learned that. uh, but it was a year of it was a month or two of effort. And then I realized okay, my interest is something else, so I started working on initial. So at that time the data structure and algorithm subject was introduced to us in fourth semester. And there I started learning initial C programming, initial basic concepts, linked list, uh, data structure around like the linked list, or stack queues, trees, tries, and all those things. I also got introduced to some set of algorithms, and that's where I started. It started getting interesting to me. And at the end of the two years, I started preparing and then solving these competitive coding problems. So for a year, I worked on that. Uh, I I I used to work with one of my friends or study with one of my friends, and they were also into the same interest, where they were also preparing or solving these questions for in various contexts. And we used to compete. We used to learn from each other. And I think at the end of the 3 years, I was at good enough position where I was able to solve let's say I covered all the basic topics, all the advanced topics. uh, Now here the recommendation here is to the viewers that you don't have to solve 1000 problems. Pick up a topic, solve 10 problems, 10 different problems that covers the itsy bitsy of that algorithm, and that's all. You don't have to spend mm, you know 100 or 1000 hours to solve uh, hundreds problems around that algorithm, right? So that was the idea. After 3 years, so the placement is started now. I appeared in few companies, even Microsoft, Amazon, they also came, and there was I think some criteria of eligibility criteria of some CGPA should be above 8 or something, and I think 8.5 or something, depends on how many people are there. So I gave the written test, some coding problem they asked in a hall, and then they gave us the papers, and I solved that problem. I think I don't know if this was a different company or not, but yeah, all companies used to have one initial coding round on some platform. Let's say Hacker Earth, Hacker Rank. I don't know. Initially, they had some their different platforms. So there you solve two problems. They'll also have some problems around uh, C programming, initial basic concepts, let's say data structure, algorithms, operating system, networking. So most of the problems will initially there will be two coding problem, but then there will be a lot of MCQs around these other subjects as well, and you solve all of them, and then you appear for the interviews. Unfortunately, I couldn't clear any of these. I think Microsoft and Amazon both interview rounds, the coding rounds, and then I was really disheartened because the people who were preparing with me, they got into uh, and I wasn't. So I was still feeling that uh, that feeling where you are your all the friends are getting interviews in different good companies and you are not. So then still I kept on working, I kept on learning, and I ended up appearing for interviews for a startup, and then I got job there. And then since I already got one job, so I cannot now apply in another companies coming to the campus. And for that reason I couldn't appear to many other companies, let's say Flipkart or any Adobe or a lot of companies. So then I had to wait for another round, and in another round I got into Samsung. And at the time Samsung was giving somewhere around 15 lakhs or something. That was a good enough, but not like 20 plus, where 20 plus was being offered by these companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and all these companies. So what I got was 15 lakhs from the Samsung. Then I kept on improving myself, kept on learning new things. And I joined Samsung. There I worked on some smart display drivers. So Samsung has another operating system for their smart displays, and there we need to work on some driver development, firmware development, and mostly around Linux, drivers, firmwares, Linux operating systems, Linux kernel. So these were uh, technologies that they were working on. So I got familiarity with that, and then somewhere in my mind I had that, okay, in future I want to work around Linux kernel, because it was a beautiful piece of big code base, and I learned so much uh, just by going through the code. And for that reason I had that interest in my mind that, okay, I want to pursue that. Now you talked about the projects in college. So my most of the projects were around So initially, I think in second year, I made a project around HTML, because that's the technology I knew at that time. So I, applied that. I made a website or something where people can book a cab or something, or a truck or something, and then they, have an order summary, and then uh, post that will have some backend as well, where we are fetching the data, writing to, right. So that was a small project, initial project to show to the intern companies. uh, and then in third years, I was more interested into uh, deep learning, machine learning, and all those things. So most of my projects, the minor and major project that happens in the college, which is part of your academic curriculums,
Hmm.
I worked on some ML projects around that, some ML problem statements. So one of the problem statement was to identify handwritten characters using some machine learning algorithms. So I was, always kind of a person who would not just focus on the outcome. I'll be, first learning all those things. I was never into copying a solution or getting a solution from someone and then modifying it little bit and then presenting to the professors. I was a kind of person who would learn what is the background or what is the underlying, uh, you know technologies for that, and I wanted to learn that. So I actually implemented all those things using simple Python programming language, and then we, you know, in that way we learned a lot of things. Now one could go ahead and directly, use some ML frameworks to achieve that, but in that case you have a project, but you haven't learned so much because you used some inbuilt APIs which solve your problem with let's say 100
Hmm.
lines of code. But I was one who was trying to implement everything from scratch, not using one
Okay.
API from inbuilt libraries and all. So that was kind of thinking mindset that I had, that I want to solve all the things from scratch. I should know what is happening underneath, right? What, let's say I am using one API from a library, I want to know what that API is actually implemented in that library. And if you are doing that, then of course you are learning new things. If you keep yourself, let's say I don't want to understand that because that is implemented,
Hmm.
why should I care about that?
Hmm.
Then of course you'll have a project, but let's say some professor asks you that, okay, how it was implemented, then you are like, okay, I don't know at this point, right? So that's the kind of thinking process you should also have.
So, acha, a lot of students ask me how to learn machine learning and deep learning. Can you tell a little कि आपने कहाँ से सीखना स्टार्ट किया और फिर कैसे
Mhm.
सीखा मतलब उसके बारे में?
Right. So there was one book in machine learning. So it was an online book. It's called Neural Network .com or something by some Nielsen person, and this was amazing book. So this guy started from scratch, started from basic mathematical expressions, and went on developing it piece by piece or writing it piece by piece, so that you understand the background, you understand all the technologies on the way, and then at final you achieve at a point where you learn so many things, and then you combine all those things together to make a project, right? So this was one book, online book. I think I am not sure if I remember. It's let me search on Google. So neural, no, I'm not able to find it now, but yeah,
No.
this was an interesting book, and I wasn't into much into learning from the YouTube folks or someone who is just teaching, okay, how to solve or how to have a project. I was more interested into going through each and each step. So that book was amazing. I learned how most of the times what people do, and in fact most of the people in my college did, was that they used some big level APIs. They did not know how their problem, machine learning project works internally. But I was one who was interested into learning how these weights biases works. So there is a back propagation algorithm in ML which does all these learning. So let's say you apply a lot of there are a lot of layers. So one is fully connected layer. There is then convolution neural network in network layer and multiple. So your input goes through multiple layers, and then at the end of the day you'll have some yes or no, and then based on that yes or no, if that is correct or not, your feedback propagates backward. So your each weights and bias is adjusted to that feedback, right? And this way your entire algorithms learns, entire your entire model learns based on that result, or based on that data. So I learned that the back propagation part, where in my college I think most of the people did ML projects, and they copied, few people copied from me as well, and few people even took it from online, but they did not know how that internally works. Now it's a different thing that we all got the same marks because the
Mhm.
professors just look at the demo, and don't really ask the deep questions. They will ask, okay, where did you use it?
Mhm.
What are the APIs you use? They say, okay, I've used this API, this API, and this and
Mhm.
that. All right. Nobody goes into deeper because they also did not have that learning
Deepen.
or understanding, right? So that's different thing. But of course learning back into what happens internally will help you definitely achieve you know bigger goals in your life. So have that mindset.
One person is asking, what is your code forces rating? And he
uh
specific to.
I think around that time it was somewhere 1800. I was I did not do much of coding on code forces. I did much of coding on Codechef. I don't know, for some reason. At the end of the day, at the end of my graduation, I was into code force. But first, to 1 or 2 year, I was doing my coding on Codechef, and there I think mostly my rating was around, I think, 5 star or something. Something about 2000, which eventually translates to 5 star or something. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all. Now you don't have to be 5 star to be in Google. All you have to do is to learn how a problem is solved. Doesn't have to practice 1000 problems. It's just that I did. You don't have to do it, right?
Okay, can you tell us, did you completed any internships in your college time?
I did not. Uh, Actually, at the end of the year two, we had some companies, which again, like these foreign companies hiring for intern, and I couldn't get into any of those. So I spent time learning or developing a project. So I did some project development around that time frame, learning machine learning, all those things that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, that's all I spend my time on. Now, one could say, okay, if I don't have internship, I have 2 months. What do I do? I enjoy. I spend that time with family. I spend that time, watching movies, playing games, right?
Mhm.
That could be one option, but I chose to do otherwise. I worked on some initial projects, learning some new technologies, and also keeping my, programming, you know, on the way, right? Keep doing the programming practices and all those things. But yeah, I did not get any internship. I was spending my time learning new things at that time.
Cool. अ, बाकी एक और शायद स्टार्टिंग में एक क्वेश्चन आया था कि एक तो क्या इन्फीरियोरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स से कैसे डील करते हैं, क्योंकि कंपटीशन आजकल बहुत ज्यादा है।
हम्म,
और एक और
uh,
क्वेश्चन कि
हम्म,
डिस्ट्रैक्शन, जैसे आपने बोला ना कि आई वाज नॉट डिस्ट्रैक्टेड टू एनीथिंग,
हम्म,
बी इट फैमिली, बी इट फ्रेंड्स, बी इट chill, not in any pleasure, not in any nothing.
हम्म.
How so much focused?
Uh, I think I wouldn't say that I wasn't enjoying anything. So I when initially I mentioned that out of 24 hours, you have to put 2 hours every day on things that you want to learn. You don't have to put 10 hours or 8 hours or 9 hours, right? If I had said that, then that's a question that okay, if you are working 10 hours, then you don't have time for your family, right? But I also determined that if I want to spend uh, 2 hours every single day, then I'll go and spend the 2 hours on learning new things. So I think, of course, I had some 1 hour time, 2 hour time, or 3 hour time for enjoyment, for playing some games. For now, I wasn't into much online games. I was playing badminton. So I would recommend people doing that, because you spend so much time sitting on in front of a screen. You may be doing coding practices, you may be developing projects, you may be doing something on your laptop. So you are sitting mostly on in front of your laptop. Now again, if you start playing online games, then that extend your on screen time, and I wouldn't recommend that. I'll spend. So what I did was I'll spend some time going outside, talking to friends, playing badminton, going to the different places outside, around my college. So I think that was pretty much all. Now, two hours a day is not a problematic, right? But then you have to be determined, because you have set a goal, right? Let's say I am setting a goal to earn 10 lakhs by end of the year, right? Then I at least make sure that okay, if there are 10 months and then 10 lakh is the amount that I want to earn, then 1 lakh is per month, right? So if I achieve, I if I earn that 1 lakh in first month, that then I don't have to worry about whether I'll earn 9 lakhs in next 9 months or not. I earn for 1 month 1 lakh, that's sufficient. I don't have to worry about okay, whether this was enough or not. I made a plan, I executed for a month. Now I'll chill for some time, and then for next month again I need to earn 1 lakh. So now I have to figure out okay, how do I earn 1 lakh there. So in such a way, you make a plan every single day. You decide okay, what you should learn for that 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever amount you decided for every day to learn. And then based on that, you keep doing that. Now you don't have to worry about okay, whether there will be a company will be hiring me or not. You just have to execute that plan, and believe me, at the end of the day, there will be so many companies looking for you, you may not even realize. And if you apply for those companies after going through that plan, after achieving that plan of 1 year, I'm definitely sure that you'll achieve, or you'll get into those companies. Maybe you'll fail first time, maybe you'll fail second time, but not all the times you are going to fail. After maybe failing 1 or 2 times, you will be really comfortable. You say that okay, now I don't worry about it, right? I'm what happens, I'm going to fail third time, and if not, then I'm getting selected, right? So that's the idea you should have, that if a company, there is two options, right? If I get rejected or if I get selected. If I get rejected, I learn something new.
Yeah.
If I get selected, then that's all, my goal is complete, right? So yeah.
एक और क्वेश्चन, एनी टिप्स ऑन रिज्यूमे मेकिंग, लाइक कितना
Yeah,
मैटर
I
करता है रिज्यूमे?
yes, yes, yes. I uh, I have some tips for you, because I'm so in Google I have done, I think, approximately 200 plus interviews, and most of the times I have seen similar patterns. So most of the times what people do, and especially the people who are coming from tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 colleges, what they try to do is they'll ask, or they'll put so much info into their resume. Now there is, if let's say there is, we compare someone from Google, let's say Googler has some resume, and then there is this uh, someone who is really new.
Dear.
So this guy will have too much text. It's like, okay, it's a two-page resume, but the Googler or someone who is working in some big companies will have one-page resume. So that is the difference that I have seen. Putting too much text in your resume, decreases your chances. Or sometimes what happens is that you have done certain things, you want to highlight those things to the recruiter who is hiring you, right? But what you do is you put too much text, that those lines or the highlight that you wanted to convey to the recruiter will not be conveyed, because it is lost in this too much text thingy, right?
Mm.
So that's one suggestion, that do not write too much text in your resumes. Always try to highlight what you know and what this company is looking for most of the times. So this is the first is, keep your resume very simple, one page, 1.5 page max. If let's say you are experienced person, have two-page resume max, but don't push too much text. A recruiter only has 30 to 40 seconds a minute to go through your resume, and they are not going to read everything. If they see too much text, they try to you know leave that resume, right? Because now they haven't got enough information, they are not going through each details you provided. So then you are kind of into that situation where you are trying to say something but they did not receive. On the other hand, if someone has only 5 lines, it's very easy for them to go through those 5 lines. Someone has 100 lines, most of the times that's our human nature as well. Let's say if there is only 5 line on a page, I read that 5 lines or 2 lines. But if there is too much text, even if let's say that is interested to me, even I'm interested in, I won't go through that full page. And that happens with the recruiter as well. They have very limited time to go through your resumes. So keep simple, have things only that you know, don't put too much text. Let's say I worked on something in past for a day or two on, let's say, JavaScript. So I put JavaScript in my resume, and that's not really the point. Don't put that thing in your resume. Only put things which you are really comfortable, which you can answer in your interview as well. So that's one tip. The second tip is, when let's say you have a resume. Now there are 100 companies have different requirements, right? Every company will have a different requirement, a job portfolio for their requirements, right? They might be working on different technologies, they might be having different products. And what a person do is create one resume and forward to each those companies.
Mm.
And that's really not ideal, because what you mentioned on your resume doesn't really match with every company that you're applying for, right? Because of course it may match with one company but it won't match with all of them. So what you
Yeah.
have to do is that you have to first go through the company's role that they are hiring for, what are the skills they are looking for, and then tailor your resume according to those requirements. In that case, you have a higher chances of getting your resume shortlisted, at least, because they see that, okay, these are our requirements and this is what skills this person has, and there is so much matching. So why wouldn't they
Yeah.
go for you with your resume, right? So you do that for every company you apply. You tailor your resume based on their requirements, and not based on like you what you know, right? You always try to look from a company perspective rather than what you
mm,
are dumping information to the recruiter, right? You always look what they want rather than what I have, right? So if you focus on what they want, then you have higher chances of your resume getting into companies. I think
uh,
other tips are also there where if don't try to explain what technologies that you used, like I have used so much, I implemented so many, I
mm,
go through so. That's not
mm,
really the point. The point should be that you used brief what technologies you used and what you achieved by using those technologies, and that should be on your resume. So that's the third thing. There are a couple of more as well, but yeah, go ahead.
अ, एटी एक आजकल एटीएस का बहुत चल रहा है कि क्या रिज्यूम में जैसे आपने इंटरव्यूज लिए तो रिक्रूटर्स खुद देखते हैं रिज्यूम में 30-40 सेकंड तक या कुछ मशीन्स के थ्रू होता है ये कि एटीएस
uh,
स्कोर
I think that I'm not sure what this ATS system is. I think it's some resume shortlisting based on your
या
requirement, a system where they provide inputs and then input your resume
या
and then match or create some score. I'm not sure
अकॉर्डिंग टू
about
द
that.
जॉब
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure about how that system is implemented, but what I can say is that if your resume is matching with the role you are applying for, then definitely you are going to have higher chances. Uh, Maybe let's say there is one role, there is 10,000 or 1,000 applicants. Now the recruiter doesn't have time to go through each resume, so maybe they have some system in place that throws take in 100 resumes and only give you 10 resume to review, right? And out of those 10 you maybe shortlist 5. So that could be there. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this ATS system is.
इसी चीज से रिलेटेड कि टेम्पलेट कैसे सिलेक्ट करें रिज्यूम में बनाए कहाँ से डू यू हैव एनी प्लेटफॉर्म सजेशंस या टेम्पलेट सजेशंस डू यू हैव
I think there are so many people on LinkedIn teaching how to select
या
different templates. Uh, I personally don't have any templates or don't follow any. What I do is I try to keep the text minimum, have the headings that I want to recruiter I want the recruiter to understand, very clear and clean formats. Don't if you're too much text, of course, again, that I already mentioned. So have a one pager or 1.5 page resume, only explain, and it should be too much clean. If it shouldn't be too much data, text, other contents, other links. Let's say if I am writing my resume, I don't put what all the things I have worked on in past. I only put some basic relevant requirements, relevant skills that I have according to that requirement, right? Now there are people I have seen who even put a statement in the down somewhere in bottom of the resume saying that all the information I presented here are correct. Right? I don't want that line as well. So it's adding my text, right? It's increasing my
या
resume size. And there
या
are times people will put an address. Now, what that address is there, right? Why that address is there? Nobody's going to see, okay, this person is from, let's say, Rajasthan or Delhi or Haryana. I should pursue that person. No, right? So only put your number, maybe email address, and then some essential information. Don't put too much information. Keep it clean and simple. Don't use so many terms which the recruiter may be not familiar with. Sometimes what happens is that you put so much big words. Now recruiter wouldn't even know, okay, what these words means, or they would not know at least the context what you're trying to say. So having simple words always help them. It's mostly conveying your information, right? It's not about saying that, okay, hey, I can use these big words, and then you wouldn't even understand, right? That's not the purpose. The purpose is that whatever you are trying to say, they should hear that, and then they should understand your thinking. They should understand what you know. So that's the purpose of the resume. So don't make it like, okay, I know too much, big English words, and here these are, and here it's up to you to figure out, okay, what I'm trying to say.
आप वर्ड में बनाते हो रिज्यूमे, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट वर्ड में और वेयर?
Uh, no, I think I used some online site or something where I created. But of course, I think I have seen many resumes which are, uh, written in documents, words, and these are amazing resumes. Like, it's not like there is so much formatting and all, but it looks simple and clean. It's not like, okay, there are so many lines, so many dots. No, it's just simple, plain simple. There is a name, then there is a bar of some email address and your phone number. Then there is a clean paragraph of what you want to pursue or what you know, and how you are motivated towards working on so and so technologies. And then talk about some your college, your where you are from, not where you're from, but where you study your so and so graduations, right? Where you graduated, all those things. And then maybe some projects where you put two or three projects which are more oriented towards what that company is hiring for. And then, and in the end, you might highlight some skills that, okay, hey, I know these skills, and that's all. I think that's your resume should be.
One person has asked the question कि can you guide us what is the best way to earn money from the first year while learning codes? How can we learn earning money from coding?
I don't know. I'm not even sure if someone gives you money for writing or doing coding, like the DSA coding. But of course, there are companies. So you could do freelancing. Freelancing is something where there is a problem statement. Some company wants that projects to be delivered by some third party person or something, and then there you can contribute. Right? There is, let's say, they'll come up with something like, okay, we want to have this API implemented, or we want to have this small project implemented, whether you can do or not, right? So you can go about in that direction, developing, solving those problems for those people. And in that, I think there is some money transactions happens as well.
Mhm.
But in coding specifically, doing the DSA on Codechef, lit code, that nobody, I'm not sure, at least I'm not aware of
Mhm.
such money earning way.
Techniques.
Yeah, techniques.
एक एक क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि जैसे हम स्टार्टिंग में बात कर रहे थे आपकी, हम सबसे पहले तो कैन यू लिस्ट डाउन कि कौन से मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट डाटा स्ट्रक्चर हैं जिन पे हम पे को प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी ही करनी है?
Most important data structure, right?
या
Yeah, I think you start from a basic. So most of the times, during in college we learn C programming, and most of the companies will ask you questions in C only. They will ask you to implement such and such in C or C++. Now, in my case, I was more oriented in C, and that again goes back to the my statement that I always try to learn or implement things from scratch. So in C++, you have these list, these hash map, all these things available to you. Now you just use one line, and then you do some operations or call these APIs, and then it's done. I'm not that guy. I have to understand how that is implemented. So I always did programming in C. I mean, of course, like when I knew all those things, right? Okay, what are the APIs available? What is the hash map? How it is internally implemented? All those things. But whenever I want to solve a problem, when I have a peace time, let's say I have an hour or two of time, what I do is I implement a stack from scratch, a linked list from scratch, a graph from scratch, right? So, and for that, you need to understand C pointers, because having the good understanding of the pointer can help you implement a linked list, implement a graph, implement a try or something, right? Or tree, or stack or queues. So have that. So I come from that background, that okay, I want to implement everything from scratch using C pointers. So the first thing I wanted to learn was having good understanding of the C pointers. And I would recommend, of course, like according to your question, so the C pointer is must. You have a good understanding of C pointers, how it works, what are different, ways we can use C pointers to solve the problems. Then the first thing is you try to, solve the problems around linked list, which is using this using the C pointers. And then stack, queues, tree, binary search, BST and all those things. And then maybe some graphs. Now the graph, of course, is itself is a huge. We need to understand some basic concepts there, and that's all for data structure side. Now algorithms, when it comes to algorithm, uh, you know there are a lot of algorithms, brute force, greedy, dynamic programming, all those things. So you don't especially go and master each, but have good understanding of each concepts, and that will help you uh, solve the problems in your context or in your interviews as well.
हाँ, तो इसी इसी से लिंक्ड एक नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि जैसे आपने बोला था कि एक डाटा स्ट्रक्चर के आप 10 डिफरेंट क्वेश्चंस करो।
Hmm.
एक डाटा स्ट्रक्चर के या एक एल्गोरिथम को पकड़ के आप 10 डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन करो। सपोज लिंक लिस्ट आपने पकड़ लिया या ट्री पे आपने पकड़ लिया, तो वो डिफरेंट पता कैसे चलेगा हमको कि ये 10 डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन है जो मुझे करने हैं। सपोज लिंक लिस्ट के पकड़
Hmm.
के हमने 10 क्वेश्चन कर लिए,
Hmm.
फिर मतलब पता कैसे चलेगा कि ये 10 क्वेश्चन डिफरेंट है एंड पहले तो ये डिफरेंट है और फिर इनडिफरेंट को करना है हमको बस, ये कर लिए तो
Right.
इनफ।
I think there are, the if so, most of the times, what happens is that uh, you try to connect with your seniors who has done good job in their career, and sometimes you have to follow through the LinkedIn's. So I personally have have too many connections, and I see every single day people are posting, here is 10 questions for linked list, here is 20 questions for trees, right? So that many people are trying to come up with such list, and you can choose one list and always stick to that list. Now if you want to create such list on your own, then what I would recommend is that, uh, so let's take the example of linked list. So you always go through the implementation perspective. What are the different implementation we can have around linked list? So one is you can have one linked list implemented, a normal linked list, and then you could have a reverse where pointer goes in backward. So now first you were understanding how the pointers work in chaining fashion, right? One after another. Now you also understand how they can work in reverse, right? How you can make sure all these links are reversed. That's another pattern, right? Now you go ahead and implement a tree. So this is another pattern, that okay, I have a linked list, now how do I make it into a tree? So I think most of the times you will understand, okay, this is a different pattern, right? There is something new learning here. And most of the times you'll easily be able to identify if these two problems are similar or not. Similar as in like the technology wise, implementation wise, there will be two problems who just uh, so one example here is that, let's say there is a linked list problem that you want to, so the problem statement is that search a number in that linked list. So in this case, what you have to do is to you traverse through the linked list. So this is one way to solve. Now there will be another problem. Let's say I want to delete a node. So now the searching part is common here, right? So you can
Hmm.
easily identify this is something I already done. So if let's say there is third problem which requires you to delete and then search, you know that okay, this is I already done,
Hmm.
right? So in this fashion, you can figure out if these problems are similar or not. So in this way, you can come up with 10 such problems which covers entire thing around that topic, right? So that's my views.
एक और चीज जैसे लीड कोड पे आजकल सी प्लस प्लस में स्टैंडर्ड टेम्पलेट लाइब्रेरी होती है, तो वो
Mhm.
डू यू रिकमेंड कि लीड कोड पे वो शॉर्ट फंक्शंस को यूज करना चाहिए, लाइक रिवर्स हो गया जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल रिवर्स, ऐसे बहुत सारे होते हैं फंक्शंस।
Can you repeat?
या श्योर, कि सी प्लस प्लस में एक स्टैंडर्ड टेम्पलेट लाइब्रेरी होती है।
Mhm.
सपोज एक एरे है,
Mhm.
एरे को रिवर्स करना है अगर, तो उसमें डॉट रिवर्स फंक्शन हो जाएगा।
Right. I think I
हैव यू
wouldn't personally recommend using those, even in let's say vector or
वेक्टर्स।
other inbuilt data structure. Most of the times, I personally had implemented graph from pointers. So creating a list of pointers, and then each pointer is pointing to a list again. So it's a kind of adjacency list, right? So creating a graph out of the pointers can help you understand how a vector would implement a pointer internally, right? A vector would implement a graph internally, right? So having writing things from scratch will always give you why what is there in the underneath of what APIs you are using, right? So
या
I think that's always recommended, and I would personally ask you guys or the folks who are watching should do that, because in that case you essentially learn what is there rather than just using something. In that case you would know, okay, well, how it reversed that linked list or how it reversed that array. You just know, okay, there is an API that does the job. Now in real life you might not have that. uh, you know let's say you are working on a project. Now there is no API for reversing a tree, a linked list or an array, and in that case you are stuck, you don't know. So that should not happen.
आपने लीड कोड ट्राई किया या सिर्फ लीड कोड किया है आपने?
Nice. I did not do anything on
एंड
lit code. Yeah,
एनी
no.
पर्टिकुलर रीजन फॉर दैट?
I think by the time I reached to lit code, I was already solved all the problems around all the concepts. So now lit code is again like, if I wanted I would have done it, but then all those problems are now similar to what I worked on, right? I know
या
there is some concepts in each problem statement. I knew those concepts. Now I don't have to solve those problems.
कूल। तो वन फ्यू लास्ट क्वेश्चंस इफ आई वुड से, कि
Mhm,
डीएसए तो हमने कर लिया,
mhm,
गूगल के या सैमसंग के जो, या आपने अमेज़न या माइक्रोसॉफ्ट के भी कोडिंग राउंड्स में बैठे आप, तो
mhm,
और कौन-कौन से सब्जेक्ट्स थे, मतलब काइंड ऑफ डीएसए तो हो गया, उसके
mhm.
अलावा क्या-क्या इम्पोर्टेंट होता है क्रैक करने के लिए?
I Yeah, I think I earlier mentioned, and let me repeat it. So the C programming, the basic concepts are the one. Now, C++ could also be there because it is again object-oriented programming, which is
हुँ,
a new addition to the C programming, right? And it becomes a C++, right?
हुँ,
So that's another set of key concepts from where the question can appear in your online test. Now, another thing is operating system. The operating system is always uh, is really vast, right? There are so many concepts, so many thinking or logical solutions, and those are essentially help you learn how system works. right? That's a real world example, right? The operating system is a real world implementation of all the things that we have learned, right? uh, so having the good understanding of the operating system is always a good or plus point, because you would get questions around OS primitives as well. Networking is again one more thing. The database. Uh, I think these are pretty much all that you can get the questions around in your interviews or in online assessment test as well.
इफ और सिस्टम डिजाइन, जैसे हम सुनते हैं कि सिस्टम डिजाइन काफी इम्पोर्टेंट होता है वो, आप डू यू
I
नो
I
हाउ टू
think
लर्न दैट?
for freshers, the system is design is not really. I mean, they are not going to ask you system design per se, because you did not worked on such problems in your past. System design is something that you learn while on the job, right? You uh, learn so many things so far, so many basics, programmings, DSA, database, all those technologies you have learned. Now, how do you make sure that you use those technologies, come up with a plan, come up with a design, and then implement from scratch to delivering it to the end users, right? So there the system design comes, and for a freshers you don't have that experience. So that so those system design interviews should not be there in your assessment or your uh, candidature. Now, if you are experienced, let's say 2 3 years, then of course having system design is uh, most of the companies do that. And I think when the question that you asked is that where do we learn those system design concepts? So I would recommend is that you take a problem statement. Let's say, how do you implement? Uh, how do you develop an SOC, or how do you develop a firmware, or how do you develop? Let's say there is a WhatsApp. How do you implement this? WhatsApp. What are the different components? How do you come up with an Amazon site, right? How do you come up with? So there are different things, right? That depending on which career you want to follow. Let's say if you want to pursue Linux, C programming in your future, where you are working on drivers, firmwares, operating system, then in that case having good understanding of how different components or different modules of the Linux works. So that's a good learning of system design. Now, on the other end, let's say if you are pursuing uh, you know front end back end development, you are working on some applications. In that case, it is advised to go through some basic products out there, how they design. Let's say what is the design of the Uber, you know and try to come up with your own solution, right? It doesn't have to be you go through something from online, but you understand that there is a front end system, there is a back end system. What are the APIs, what are the different modules or different processing components available in the system? How do you scale that to so many users, right? So have those understanding in the common in your mind, and then work on such a design, right? How the data would flow from one module to another, what are the protocols, how do you even send these data from one module to another module, right? So have that understanding. Now there are so many channels online, you can go through those and then learn system design. Now I personally don't have any resource in my mind at the moment, but of course, like searching on the YouTube or in Google will give you a lot of resources around system design.
कूल। तो एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन हो रखा मेरा कि जैसे अगर कोई जो फ्रेशर है, तो बहुत की
Mhm.
प्रॉब्लम होती है कि आज सपोज 5 क्वेश्चन कर लिए, 5वें क्वेश्चन पे बंदा ना ऐसे स्टक होता है, मतलब बहुत मे बी वो लीड कोड पे मार्क्ड इजी था,
Mhm.
बट इजी मार्क होते हुए भी वो इतना मे बी मुश्किल था, या कह लो बच्चे से
Mhm.
बना नहीं,
Mhm.
और वो काफी टाइम लग गया। एंड
Mhm.
इवन व्हेन डिस्कसिंग विद अ फ्रेंड, इसमें इसमें इतना दिमाग लग जाता है कई बार कि बंदा फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाता है और अगले दिन करता ही नहीं है।
Mhm.
उस सिचुएशन को कैसे डील करेंगे, दैट स्ट्रेस, दैट डिप्रेशन दैट मे कम ऑन मे, सब कुछ कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स पे आता है मे बी शायद।
Hmm. So I think if you're stuck in such problems, so you have to look from outside, right? There is a problem statement. There are some concepts that are we are using to solve this problem. Now there is some algorithm to solve that problem. Now it could happen that okay, maybe there is some bugs that you could not figure out. That can happen, it can go for hours, and then at the end of the day you realize okay, there is a line missing, or there is some variable that I did not update, kind of such silly mistakes. Then in that case you know that okay, you know how to solve. It's just a mistake that you perform, right? In that case it's there is no there's no reason to
Quit.
dishearten, right? Or quit, right? But let's say there is a problem statement, there are some algorithms being used there, there are some data structure being used there. Now if you are not able to solve that problem, then you don't know how these different data structures and algorithms combine to make one solution, right? And in that case you have to look and solve some problems around these few concepts. Let's say in some problem there was some hash map being used, some pointers being used, linked list being used. Now around these concepts, if you are not able to solve that problem, then go on solving few more problems which are on these three topics. So now you would understand how these different data structure work together, right? And if you understand that, then you can solve the problem like this one or any another problem per se, right? So having that thing in mindset, you may be understanding the linked list better, you may be understanding tree better, but when you combine these two together, you may run into some situations where you don't know how to solve, right? So I would recommend in that case that okay, these are the set of basic concepts that was being used in this problem, and I couldn't solve this problem for let's say an hour or 2 hour three, right? So now recommendation would be that take these topics, two topics or two basic concepts, and then try to solve few more problems around that. So then you get that understanding that how these two concepts can be used together to solve problems. Now you know each one enough, but you when we combine these two together, you are running into problems, right? So in that case I would recommend that try to identify what goes into that problem, what goes into solving that problem, and now focus on what, how they can work together to make a solution. Now in that frame try to solve few more problems around that. And I think it should be don't quit. Quit is something it's not a day job or something. It's not like you uh, I personally feel sometimes when, and even these days when I'm in Google and working for around 5 years, there are some basic concepts that I might get stuck, right? And then some of my colleagues will point me that okay, here this is a problem, and this is something I need to improve, right? So in that case what you do trying to do is everybody around you is helping you to grow, right, in your career. And it may happen that those people might be lacking something that I am expert at, right? So in that case it's my duty to help them, you know bridge that gap, improve their skills around those basic concepts, right? So that's generic idea.
हम्म। तो इसी से ही एक निकल रहा है कि क्या गूगल में कभी जैसे आप वर्क कर रहे हो तो कभी स्ट्रेस होता है कि मतलब कि प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर होता होगा मे बी, तो क्या
Yes.
कि डेडलाइन आ रही है और उन्होंने डंडा दे रखा है, तो स्ट्रेस होता है उस चीज का कभी?
I think so. What happens is that so there will be a planning, right? Before each project, there will be a planning. Now, if you stick to that plan, then the situation of the deadline never comes in. You are always on your track. You are always making progress, and sometimes it happens. Of course, like what you mentioned is that sometimes we feel that okay, this problem will be solved in 2 days or a week, but it takes more than that when you really deep dive into that problem. And in that case, what we personally recommended, or what we personally know, is that it's always good to flag that to your manager that okay, I thought this problem will be solved in 2 hours or 2 days, but now it is taking more than that, and then there is a reason behind it. And you know so be aware of such delays, right? And in that case, of course, your manager will understand you that okay, this problem was misscoped, I would say, like it was thought to solve in 2 days, but not really. It's a 2 days job, it's more than that, or 2 weeks job now. So they'll change their plan accordingly, right? Okay, they will bring different pieces together and see okay how delaying this 2 weeks of my feature will impact the product, and how they can now rework this to make it work, right? So I think that's always be upfront that okay, because of so and so reasons I'm not able to uh, or because of the so and so complexities, so and so technologies, I am going to delay this feature, or it will be delayed. So have that things shared with your managers upper management, because if you don't share, then at the end of the day, let's say after 2 months there is a launch, I did not call out to the people in my team that okay, this feature is going to delayed, and during the launch I am saying that okay, this will be delayed, then that's a bad thing, right? Because at that time the people, they have come up with all the launch related tasks and all those things, and now you are saying that, okay, I can't deliver one small feature in that. So that should not happen. You should always be upfront, be honest with your managers, with your colleagues, that this is something, and here is the deal, right? So yeah.
It's all the questions are done from my side. Just एक ऑडियंस की तरफ से आ रहा है कि मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है, मैं डे से शुरुआत करता हूँ, डेली 3 क्वेश्चंस बनाता हूँ, बट तीन के उसको सॉल्यूशन देखने पड़ रहे हैं, क्या करूँ?
I think then you may be lacking, or I won't personally say that, but what you need to do is have to have a good understanding of those basic concepts first. Most of the times, what happens is that I am not aware of the problem entirely, or I'm not aware of the concepts entirely, but then I jump onto the problem statement too quickly, right? And in that case the situations happens, and in even in my case, sometimes I'm not able to solve the problem. So what I do is I go back, understand those concepts again, revise my thesis, theories, all those things, concepts, and then come back to the problem and then solve it. So that's a recommendation that I would give it to you guys.
Oh, I think this question we have already covered, how to make consistency. Every time it is breaking when I try to start.
Yeah, I think I have covered that.
Yeah. So whoever has asked this question, you can rewatch the session, or I
Yeah,
think
maybe
you
if
may
you
learn
join
from the
later in the
starting.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's done from
Okay.
my side. If
Okay.
you
Yeah.
have any, if audience has any questions, You can ask in the comments. We can give them a minute or two, and then we can wrap up the session.
Sure.
I think there are no more questions.
Okay, sounds
Uh,
good.
सो एक मेरा पर्सनल क्वेश्चन है, इफ यू कुड आंसर दिस, जैसे आप सैमसंग में थे पहले, तो
Mhm.
हाउ यू kept preparing for Google while being at Samsung, like it would be a 8-9 hours job, and उसके बाद प्रिपरेशन थोड़ा सा टायरिंग हो जाता है, तो हाउ
Yes.
यू मैनेज दैट?
So I wouldn't personally say that okay, I was uh, preparing for a specific company or something. I was learning on the way. Let's say there is some problem or a project I'm working in day to day life in Samsung. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to come up with so let's there is this. So at that time we were working on a Linux kernel, and it's a huge code base. It's the biggest code base on one of the biggest code base on planet. So, and it's written in so beautiful way. And so what I try to do is I will always take one module and try to understand how that is implemented internally. I'll explore the code, just code, right? And this way, while you are on your job and you are not specifically taking time reading something else, you are only doing the same thing that you did in your day-to-day job, right? So that was one of the good thing, where I learned a lot of these concepts while looking at the real life code, right? Now, solving these problems during a context is different, but seeing those implementation in real life implemented and working on billions of devices, you know that gives you some different kind of learning, right? So in my case, I was lucky to be working on such code base, and then I went through that. Now, in other cases, the people might be working on something different, and then the companies might, ask, something different, right? So in that case, you have 1 or 2 hours max in a day, and try to stick to that plan where you spend every single day to learn something new or to solve new problems, to come up with new ideas. And this is not a one day job, right? It's a continuous learning. So try to be consistent around that. And now in that case, like if I wanted to prepare for a company, I cannot be a full time preparation person, right? I have a full time job. So all I have to do is to uh, you know have my work, 8 hours of work, and then spend 1 or 2 hours trying to learn new things. So that's the always the idea of how you can go about while working in company.
Someone has asked how to overcome the overthinking and fear of failure.
Yeah, I think you know when you stick to the plan, you don't overthink. All you have to think about is what's today I'm going to do. That's again like if you are looking at all the problems at once, you will be frightened by it. You'll overthink a lot that okay, man, this is so big. I can't
Mm,
solve them all of them at once. This is so big projects I am not able to solve or not able to implement. But when you divide that problem into pieces and every day you are just touching one piece, right? Then at the end of the year or 6 month or 5 month or whatever timeline you decided, you are going to cover that, right? You are going to achieve that. And after achieving that, you will feel something different. That one day I did not knew anything about this, but today I know everything about it, right? So that gives, that helps you from overthinking, and then also, the fear of, how to solve, because one concept at a time is easy, rather than looking everything at once. That's really frightened, that's really difficult to, or most of the times it's impossible to crack, right? So yeah.
Also, I read one thing on your profile, inkpajamas.com. Can you tell a little about that?
Yeah, so I think, I think there are 5 folks in my team, like in Google, who I have worked in past. So we are 5 people, and we were sitting at a coffee table one day, and we thought that, the people who are coming right out of, college, there is a huge gap in learning. So what they do in the real life is so much different than what they have been or learning in colleges. And what we try to come up with is, let's create a YouTube channel, or let's write a book. So first we try to write a book to teach people to, bridge that gap, right? What they learn, what is being used in tech, we try to, bring these two things closer. So now, when after someone going through that book, or reading through that book, will feel that, okay, they now understand everything what is going on in industry. So how do you use those? So the C programming that you learn in college is way different than what we use in industry, right? Now, per se it's not really different, it's the same technology, it's same programming language, but it looks way different in the real life than what you have been dealing with in college, right? And we wanted to come up with a book that covers those learnings, that, okay, uh, this is how it's similar to what you have learned so far, and these are the, ramp up topics, that if you cover these topics, then you are good at, learning, or doing coding in industry, right? If you learn those things, you will be good enough to be a, a day one, software engineer, right? You don't have to now ramp up, you don't have to learn those things again. That was the case, and we went ahead and created a YouTube channel. So so the idea was that if you are sitting in your pajama, in,
Hmm.
in your bedtime, you can go through those, videos, and try, you can learn so much out of it.
Yeah.
Now, in your college days, you might not know how real products are being developed, but if you go through these videos, you'll for sure know that how these things are developed, and what is there for me to, be ready, or for me to learn, so that when I, join a company, or uh, when I'm doing a job, how it will help me, right? So there won't be a gap, right? You When you start on your day one, you will feel that, okay, this is C programming that I've learned from these folks, and this is C programming that I learned from college, right? So you'll have that breeze gap removed, right? So you'll have what you need to do in the industry. And I
Awesome.
think we are we is it beneficial to go in events? What is this?
I
I
think
think
this
this
question.
this question is around, whether you should participate in events or what. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are some events, hackathons, or there are also
Uh,
some events which happen in Google Office. I
mhm.
think that this question may be related to that.
Yeah, so I think, of course, these will be useful if you. So that's again, right? This is again giving you the idea of how real life products are developed, right? If you are doing a hackathon, you are trying to essentially understand how the real world problems are solved, right? And that is where we started a channel to teach people that, okay, this is, you learn something, and this is what really happens in industry, and there is a link between these two, and what is that link, we are going to tell you guys. So that's around, we created a YouTube channel, and right now I think we have 15,000 plus, followers or subscribers
Awesome.
there. And the folks who are, watching our podcast or session, you can go there and then maybe subscribe or watch few videos, and then you'll learn, okay, what you really require, when you're doing a job, right? So that's what you learn from there.
Yeah, I think that's enough for today,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
we
think I'm also
stretch it.
running out of time, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for being there. Thank you for giving your precious time.
Yeah.
It's been so long. So thank you, audience, for being here. And it was a great session with you. I have personally learned a lot, and I hope the audience also found it valuable. So
Mhm.
I think we can end the session.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, Mayank, for having me on the session, and thanks, audience, for listening to me. My recommendations, and best of luck to you guys in your career journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for being there.
Yeah.
So we can end it.